especially for Europe. How big is it for BunnyHoppor to be able to get a top 8 and a top 4 finish?
Well, not only that, he's finishing his PhD. He was talking about how he's trying.
He's trying to finish his thesis on chemical or organic chemistry. And
yeah, you know, doing that, it's like, okay, I could try travel to these dream hacks and whatnot, or I can finish my PhD at my leisure and just realize that I'm qualified for the World Championship later this year. But it is time for the first game, and it will be the Shaman from Killinallday, which is the even Shaman, not the Shutterwalk we've seen so many times. And then BunnyHoppor playing even Warlock, which is the most popular deck in the field.
Yes, even Warlock, most represented, but it's had middling results. I'm actually looking forward to see some of the stats, win rate, tomorrow when we do the pre-show. We're going to figure out like what decks are doing well, what decks are not doing well based off expectation. One of the decks that I picked to perform very well for a tournament was even Shaman, and we haven't actually seen much of it, but whenever it has been on stream, it's been winning. And a large reason why is because a lot of people are banning it,
right?
Because they don't feel like their deck has very good percentages against it, and for good reason. If you look at like Miracle Rogue, you look at Taunt Druid, even, you know, Shutterwalk, they can struggle with those even Shamans.
This is one of the matchups that even Shaman is not thrilled to play against, certainly. You're playing against a lot of AoE. You know, when you're playing against Hellfires, you're playing against Defiles. Those are very strong cards against a deck that is looking to build up a board. You know, it's tough to play a Sea Giant against someone who keeps killing all your stuff.
Yeah, there's two things I want to say about that. The first is BunnyHoppor's best deck in this matchup between him and Killinallday is even Warlock. He's favored against most of the stuff except for the Mirror. But what really becomes a problem is his Miracle Rogue and Shutterwalk Shaman. Those are vulnerable to aggressive strategies in general. Outside of the Miracle Rogue facing off against even Warlock. So Killen generally has that matchup advantage. However, having watched Amnesiac stream and play a lot of even Shaman, I think it's his favorite deck along with even Warlock. I've seen Shamans be able to squeak out a lot of good wins based off of proper resource budgeting and being able to leverage some of their top end, whether it's Big Burst with Alakir or whether it's Hagatha, and being able to outvalue those Warlocks.
I mean, I'm not betting a steak dinner on, you know, whether Hagatha can win these games, because I know she can.
Learn our lesson, and we prefer to save our humiliation for off-camera.
Or for subtle.
Or for subtle. In the meantime, you know, BunnyHoppor's plan is pretty straightforward. He can usually deal with any big board. Things like the Vulgar Homunculus is also a pretty big role in controlling the early state of the board, and even with Doomsayer. So BunnyHoppor is kind of introduced with an interesting choice, because he can life tap this turn and also life tap a 2-drop to set up for a Mountain Giant. But what's the best setup for the next 3 turns if Killinallday also starts developing aggressively again?
Without any actual AoEs in his hand, I think BunnyHoppor likes life tapping here, and he agrees. Also, the fact that most of the boards that the even Shaman rather is looking to develop start with, you know, a 4-drop. They start with actually, you know, say a Corpse Taker. Obviously, you have the early totems, but in terms of stuff that's really threatening, Corpse Taker and you know, backing that up is really powerful.
Yes.
I think that BunnyHoppor would love to potentially just tap and drop a totem, be able to get his 4-drop on the board before Killinallday can actually get any development of his own, and immediately challenge whatever it is that Killinallday is to do.
Killen has a pretty awkward hand. A lot of synergy with a few things, but for the most part, not really doing much at the moment. Now BunnyHoppor has the opportunity to do what we're talking about, which is life tap and set up a 2-mana minion of his choice, whether Vulgar Homunculus, or he can preemptively get ahead of his opponent's board with a Doomsayer, force his opponent to react to it, then throughout the Mountain Giant.
Yeah, the Doomsayer here lets him life tap and lets him have the ability to just play that Giant next turn as well, which is just extremely strong, because preemptively answering Killen's next development and clearing his board of totems, unless he's able to remove the Doomsayer, which would require some combination of Vicious Scalehide, Flame Tongue, or a Hex.
Right.
Unlikely to be things that he's looking to commit on the third turn. It would include his coin as well.
Yeah, Flame Tongue is one of the biggest threats in even Shaman. Just even Shaman as a class. It's one of its top tier cards. And you can see that Killen not really happy to see that Doomsayer, but not really much he can do here.
Get one in. That's it. And this is part of what makes this matchup tough. Is even in a situation where, you know, you're running is doesn't even have necessarily the Hellfire or the Defiler, doesn't have to use it because they're able to get ahead of you with their their life taps and mitigate the value of your early hero powers with that Doomsayer it really sets you back.
Yep. So BunnyHoppor has a squeaky clean board for that Mountain Giant. We have seen a little bit of interesting discussion on whether or not you should life tap on 4 with the Giant, but that usually is dependent on what your opponent can do in response to it. We've seen some people not life tap for that extra card because of the threat of Naturalize against Druids. Not necessarily the case with the Shamans, but people still encourage you to life tap because you get 1 card deeper in case that card happens to change your play for the following turn. Otherwise, you just play with whatever you draw for turn 5.
I like life tap, and I do like drawing cards. It's pretty good.
I mean, that's the reason why you play even Warlock.
Right,
It's just to life tap like as many times as you can. I'm a person.
Tap into an 8/8, and Killinallday does have the Hex, but this was a play that essentially was card count-wise free for BunnyHoppor because we got life tap in the same turn as well. And that's just the power of Gen in Warlock, giving you that incredibly easy access to the resources in your deck.
Yep. The good news for Killen is if he does choose to Hex this Mountain Giant, which is looking pretty nice to line up. That's probably the biggest the threat we'll ever get. So you can use the Corpse Taker and play a little greedy. Doesn't want to have to use removal if BunnyHoppor doesn't have the answer to this very cleanly, but he does with a Spellbreaker. And it makes sense too, because if he has Corpse Taker, then he can use the Fire Elemental next turn to kill the Mountain Giant if it's not answered.
Yeah,
so
that actually allows him it allows him to actually get development while removing the Giant rather than just firing off the Hex here. And one of the key things that in a lot of matchups is identifying what removal you want to use and when you can avoid using crucial removal, because obviously Hex as a deal with anything is very important for Killinallday to have access to against a deck with so many big threats. But if you have the opportunity to try to set up to be able to use some of your weaker damage-based removal, that can put you in a better spot.
Almost out of time.
But the Homunculus does make things a little bit different here.
Yes. BunnyHoppor very clearly wants to set up threat trains with the Hooked Reaver, so he can do it. Well, he could do it next turn. Does require him to potentially burn a card. BunnyHoppor choosing not to attack.
Ooh, interesting. So this does give Killinallday the opportunity, if he so desires, to fire off a buff on this and the Hex and remove essentially the entire board. But that does commit a buff card, which is problematic. He could just use his Fire Elemental now and try and push through and get some damage in or clear off the both the small minions.
There's also Flame Tongue, Vicious Scalehide.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of options here.
I mean, yeah, that's part of the power of the Flame Tongue, and you have all these rush/chargers. So, Killen, looks like he's just going to go ahead and Hex and clear the board this way. I like it. Just anything to preserve the board count.
It does walk right into the Black Knight from BunnyHoppor here that he drew last turn, which is pretty powerful because it did require multiple card commitment, but that leaves the board in a much stronger state for Killinallday.
Yeah, he dealt with all the threats on the board immediately, and assuming his opponent plays something even moderately weak, he has some of his best stuff coming up. So if BunnyHoppor does end up Black Knighting this, then things like his Lich King or his Alakir will be much stronger and doesn't have to worry about it being sniped. Of course, Alakir is often used in a finishing move, but hey, I mean, if your Corpse Taker goes unanswered, you might be looking to finish very soon.
Yeah, but BunnyHoppor wants the tempo here. He's not holding the Black Knight to answer another big threat. We are still several turns away from any of those cards being potentially threatening here. Killinallday pick up another Corpse Taker, which still has the Divine Shield Taunt and Wind Fury. Not Lifesteal, because the Scalehide's in his hand.
Yeah.
There is some interesting interactions in this matchup based around trying to play around the threat of Defile. Specifically, sometimes you will not want to use your hero power in situations where it sets up a Defile chain that can threaten your other minions.
Yes. Yeah, it's very odd. And same thing with like Primal Fit. It's kind of a liability as the game goes on. Early on, it's fantastic for building a board presence for Sea Giants and utilizing Flame Tongue / Direwolf. But it doesn't seem like Killen's play this turn is very good with Fire Elemental, so I like developing the board. I was thinking originally with the Primal Fit Totems, but I think it's kind of what we're talking about before. It just gives more convenient ways for your opponent to access Defile.
Yeah, I think the goal for Killen here is to make Defile worse, because by clearing off the 1 health minion, there's no way to get the multiple tricks, triggers of Defile, and a Defile here would just break the Divine Shield on the Corpse Taker, leave up the Vicious Scale Hide, and would deal enough damage if, well actually no, wouldn't deal enough to the Black Knight in order for it to actually die.
Yeah, but it does set up like a roadblock so that way Fire Elemental can get in next turn anyways. Right. So it seems like Killinallday is given opportunities for BunnyHoppor to set up a good battle cry for him. And then Bunny, of course, is just trying to disrupt. So that's what things like Spellbreak is really good for. I actually would like to see BunnyHoppor tap to 10. He might get lucky with the 2-mana card. He does. Ooh. And now Double Hooked Reaver is online for next turn. So this was kind of the part of the reason why we saw earlier BunnyHoppor life tap, and play the Vulgar Homunculus despite having slightly better mana available usage. Largely because he has Double Hooked Reaver in his hand, looking for an excuse to get it out.
Yeah, it's a play that may not be obvious to a lot of people. The goal for BunnyHoppor there was just, I just want to deal 2 to myself. He used his hero power, drawing a 10. The risk of burning a card was not as relevant as the value that he got out of simply going down to 15 life, being able to spend all 8 of his mana next turn on a pair of 7/7 times. Killinallday, though, gets enough minions for that Sea Giant, so he actually has the biggest thing on the board.
Yes, and BunnyHoppor now has to kind of make a decision if he wants to clear their Sea Giant, or actually he can do both. He can Hellfire and develop it. I think Double Hooked Reaver is kind of what he was going for a while. Saw when Hex being used.
Yep, and able to clear off just about everything else.
It's a little bit not the end of the world if it does, because he still has a 7/4 round.
Killen here, a little bit of an awkward spot. It does attack into one of the Hooked Reavers. It leaves the Giant able to be cleaned up by a Defile or just by the remaining small minion on the board. Right. He could just attack into the Black Knight, leaving his Giant at 4 health and say play Lich King.
The thing about the Defile, though, is that the opponent also loses some decent board, and also happens to soften up the Hooked Reaver for another Fire Elemental. So I think Killen's okay if his opponent Defiles. How good is that in this position? Looks really juicy at first glance, but then you also soften up your Hooked Reaver.
You make your 7/7 vulnerable to your opponent's 6/5. 6/5.
Maybe instead we just use a Spellstone, and then you can develop something behind it from a 5 mana or less, in which case it just looks like a Shroom Brewer's best immediate tempo.
He could even just clear the entire board. He could value trade on the Ooze, and then use a Hooked Reaver and a Spellstone to take out the 6/5 while trading off the
or Hellfire. Hellfire trade to the 6/5.
Also totally reasonable as well.
Seems like it.
It does double upgrade Spellstones too, which is pretty powerful.
Yes, actually I like that part the best.
Yeah, and especially with the fact that his hand gets another Hellfire, finding an opportunity. Yeah, I like to play a lot for BunnyHoppor.
Oh, and you know what? Answers. Not only is it very good for the best tempo available, but also Dread Infernal, Spellstone,
yeah.
Lich King.
Yeah, it's true.
It just looks really good on every front. Death Decay.
Yeah, Yeah, we were talking about how this matchup was tough for the Even Shaman, and we're seeing exactly removal. He's at 10 life, but it's not like Killinallday has crackles in his deck. This isn't wild. He can't just start pointing damage to the face. He needs to be able to stick to the board. You know, possibly, yes, you can get Alec here plus a buff, but that requires there aren't taunts in the way as well.
We're debating if he wants to kill off this Wrath of Air Totem. There's not too many spells that gain damage. There is Death and Decay in hand, though, which actually doesn't do that much different than just a regular Death and Decay.
Right, yeah. Death and Decay doing 4 here is not a huge deal.
Right.
It does, Death and Decay plus Fire Elemental does give Killinallday the ability to knock off the 2 of those minions. Agatha 2. Agatha coin Death and Decay would be pretty nice.
Agatha means you're dead exactly on board. Because of there's 13 damage, you go to 13. So
still just dies with Death and Decay Fire Elemental to a Hellfire here. Right. It's his best play on the board. He even got the Taunt Totem. But, oh, actually no. Now with the Taunt Totem.
Just silence.
Right. But the Hellfire alone will kill him. Any removal for a 0-2 that doesn't damage the Infernal will win the game. And yeah, BunnyHoppor has it. Silence Hellfire. BunnyHoppor takes the first game, a much faster game than any of those in his previous series.
Right, and this is in general. BunnyHoppor is kind of known to take his time and go to the road very often, but in general, I really like this matchup. I actually think that Miracle Rogue, despite it struggling against those board-controlled type decks like Odd Paladin and Even Shaman, still has a lot of game, and especially with things like Edwin Van Cleef, this matchup can get very explosive very fast.
That's kind of Van Cleef's signature move, right? Is just, oh, this is a tough matchup. Better get a Van Cleef on turn 2.
Coin.
I got coin.
Where's my backstab? Where's my prep? Yeah, and Miracle Rogue, definitely one of the decks that people are accounting for in a lot of these tournaments because it's so well positioned against some of the decks that you expect to see, like Taunt Druid, even Warlock, and Shadowwalk Shaman even. And definitely has done very well so far.
You can't play even Shadowwalk Shaman.
You can't play even Shadowwalk.
You said even Shadowwalk. Never.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, good catch, Kibler. You can play even Elemental Shaman with like Rumble, so you kind of get halfway there, except without the Shadowwalks. This is, by the way, kind of a standard even Shaman. There are some builds with Calamos Primal Lord with an Elemental package. You have like Fire Plume Phoenix, Calamos obviously, and a few other cards for synergy with Earth and Might. But I personally don't know if I like that list compared to just a straightforward tempo-oriented version, which is what Killinallday has, because he has like a Bonnie Berserker.
Generally, the Elemental version plays the Elemental package over the Corpse Taker package. You usually don't have quite the same overall tool, but you still have Alec, which is a huge part of that package as well, which is also a huge part of killing your opponent very quickly.
Killin has the Amani Berserker and the Direwolf Alpha. Those are pretty decent early game board fighting tools, but Sea Giant, that's not what he's looking for unless he's able to stack the board early. Miracle Rogue's not exactly a deck that plays minions early on outside of that Firefly.
Yeah, Sea Giant's tough to get down against an opponent who is going to be daggering your minions down and such.
Sapping or Vile Spine if you do end up getting something big. So it is a little tricky, and BunnyHoppor with the coin Vile Spine is going to be looking to hold on to that when given the opportunity to strike back onto the board. And he's got a pretty decent hand for turns 4 and 5 with the Valdori Strider available to him. It's all about whether or not he can make sure that even Shaman doesn't get a board thief to the point where he's just very reactively removing 1 or 2 threats a turn.
BunnyHoppor has some interesting synergy. He could just go with the 4 link. That seems like what he's actually doing, because now Killinallday needs to have a buff to not just fall behind. He needs to have some way to, well, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Might. It's not necessarily great. If you can Earth and Might here and roll Healing Totem, like Earthing Might on the Amani Berserker, rolling Healing Totem, healing it to 2.
Yeah.
is potentially super strong. Frankly, so is just rolling Stoneclaw. The only bad totem here is Searing. There's Healing Totem.
Yeah.
So Earth and Might gives him a 4/5 Berserker, gets healed back up after killing the 4/4 to 7/2.
Yeah.
And BunnyHoppor can kill this. He has, Shiv or the sap he just picked up, but I imagine we'll see the Shiv taking it down alongside the Firefly. But that was very important for Killinallday. If he just fell behind that 4/4, very difficult for him to catch back up.
So I was trying to dial into what Bunny was thinking, because if Killinallday also had, say, Flame Tongue Totem, the board also would have been lost. His opponent would have also been able to develop with another totem behind Flame Tongue.
With Flame Tongue, you just trade off, is the thing.
Right.
Yes, you have a totem up alongside a Flame Tongue, but that's not nearly as bad as having a 7/1 up here.
Right. Do you think it's worth giving up your coin when you have such powerful tools like the Spine Slayer, or is it too late to hold on?
It was a big risk there that Bunny definitely took, and I think that he was hoping. That he got paid off for taking that risk. Sometimes when you believe a matchup is poor, oftentimes you're going to end up in a situation where you are making higher risk plays in order to try to get that opportunity. Your opponent just doesn't have it. And at the time, frankly, Killen didn't have it. There's no real difference from Bunny's perspective whether it's in his hand at the top of the deck at that point. There's no real hand tracking that's gone on by then. Okay, well, kill the Healing Totem.
Right. So this is Bunny trying to avoid having to confront the Amani Berserker while still getting up his dagger in case he draws other cards like Hench Clan Thug. He obviously wants to set up for the Foundry Strider. He's hoping that these 1/2s will be able to help get through, and also cross his fingers for no Corpse Taker, because I think that'd be pretty disastrous.
Yeah, Corpse Taker would be awful for him here. Serenade Chain Gang would be awful for him here. Another Healing Totem's pretty bad for him here.
It's also really hard for Killen to pass up this face damage.
Right. You just get. I love this from Killen. He's gonna go for 9 to the face, clear off one of these, get the healing value. Yes.
But even if it was Taunt Totem, like you were alluding to before, it's still a problem.
Either of those are really bad.
Right. So it was a 2 out of 3 chance that he'd get a totem that puts a huge roadblock in BunnyHoppor's hand. Now, BunnyHoppor ends up getting Hench Clan Thug, which is something he's playing for 2 turns from now, because he knows if he's playing Foundry Strider this turn, he's not going to be able to dagger up and then set up for the Hench Clan Thug while sapping. So he was trying to set it up in case that got to the point, but now he's been doubly punished 2 turns in a row.
The turn, just last turn, not shiving, or just sending his face into the Amani Berserker is now costing him just a lot of damage.
Man, this is just not ideal, but
yeah, this works out though. This does work out.
Yeah. I mean, it works out in a loose definition, but Killen's gonna just take the board back, and now Bunny, he's stuck in a position where Shaman's gonna develop 2, maybe even 3 threats a turn, and then BunnyHoppor can at most answer 2.
And this is kind of the nightmare scenario. This is sort of the nightmare scenario for Rogues, where your opponent is super wide on the board, because your deck is great at dealing with a big thing. When you have a Vile Spine or a Sap, and frankly now with no coin, it's difficult for BunnyHoppor to even use a Vile Spine or a Sap. And now Killen's going to be able to have the threat on his board that already exists, and he's going to start developing these Sea Giants.
I wonder.
I'm almost tempted to just assume that my best chance to win from this position is Foundry Strider and hope spiders pop out. I think we're so far behind, because Hench Clan Thug and Foundry Strider are very similar in that you're developing a 4/4, except the dagger's not going to do much in this face of still Ball Totem and a Healing Totem at the same time.
You could play Strider and then hope to draw
Spider. That's such a low percentage chance of it happening.
So what your hope is that you draw your other Fan of Knives.
Okay,
that you Fan of Knives, hit Spider.
Spider. because 2 giants are coming out this turn, man. There's no way to stop it. You play a giant, trade a minion, play a giant.
Yeah.
And what do you do to that? You already use the sap.
Well, you get 4 spiders and then immediately die.
Gosh, it's gonna be really tough. And you know, again, it's kind of like one of those things where we can use hindsight very easily to think about what play should have been made. But even if I have hindsight, I still think BunnyHoppor's in a tough spot because Amani Berserker early on with that Earthen Might that you were talking about, such a big threat. That 9 damage to face. Start off BunnyHoppor.
Right, and the fact that it was exactly Earthen Might. If that were Flame Tongue, yes, the Flame Tongue would be on the board, but the Amani would not. Ooh, finds prep.
Okay.
So right.
Prep. Oh man. Again, it's like a product of not having like that extra dagger hit, so then like prep fan with Vile Spine is like kind of like what you would want to do. But
So many options.
even if you catch Sand prep, and you hit sap, you have to hit the second prep, and
Right.
you're still like dead.
You need like prep
Yeah.
fan into somehow prep fan again, or prep sap or
Um,
something, and then hitting 3 spiders along the way.
So he's determined that he can't do anything with this preparation yet. He's gonna have to draw 1 more card and hope that it's second prep, like you said. 8, 10, 12, 13, not just 1 off. But even if you go all face, develop, what is your opponent going to do? You have lethal effectively next turn with the Alec here. So even if your opponent had some crazy way to clear the board, they don't do anything else.
Vanish.
You win.
I got the best deals anywhere.
BunnyHoppor needs to hit double prep, but even beyond that, I don't think
There's just no way
Yeah.
at this point. There's nothing he can find. He's digging for a miracle, and it's just not in his deck. And yeah, we saw, I think, the
boom.
seed animation, and there it is. So Killinallday evens up the series 1 game to 1.
And if I'm not mistaken, that might also be Miracle Rogue's first loss of the tournament.
Really?
Yes, Miracle Rogue's been
It
playing against a lot
has
of
been
control.
doing very well.
Will
Like,
fight
that's
with
my
honor.
my excuse for
Oh
how
no!
terrible
This
Mutton
tablet
was.
mysteriously broke during
No,
an embarrassing moment.
That was someone else's fault. That wasn't my fault that didn't go well.
Kibler, as we established, it's never your fault. It's, at least, at the very much, your casting partner's fault. I accept all responsibility.
You sabotaged my tablet.
That's right. It was me the entire time. All right. Well, we have game number 3 coming up here with Paladin and Miracle Rogue. The Odd Paladin is very strong against Miracle Rogue because, again, we kind of mentioned how Miracle Rogue is difficult dealing with a lot of threats at the same time. However, Fan of Knives is such an important card that it does have the power to swing the board for 1 turn decisively. So BunnyHoppor, with that kind of start, Firefly and Fan of Knives is exactly what he's looking for.
About the best opening BunnyHoppor can hope for. You know, Firefly on turn 1 and is a backstab to help him get a free tempo removal. Dagger is very good in the matchup.
This is very close to the dream hand. BunnyHoppor actually just wants 1 more card, and then he could potentially just win the game by like turn 6 with Hench Clan Thug. Because he's most likely going to dagger and answer whatever threat comes out from Killen. Killen, of course, going to do a very standard coin double 1-drop play into hero power. Very standard for what Odd Paladin wants to do. And the onus is on BunnyHoppor to clear most.
But you know, thanks to the hand that he has the ability to you know, actually make some headway on this. He can clear off the Righteous Protector with Dagger plus the Firefly if he so chooses. And one of the awkward things is in this matchup is that you're going to get a lot of situations where Fan of Knives seems pretty juicy, but you often want to save your Fan of Knives until right before your opponent is about to have the access to some sort of buffs, because if you're going into there, say, turn 5, usually turn 4 with the coin or whatnot, the ability to level up a Fungal Mancer, that's what you really, really need to clear.
Yes. That is what most people consider to be the defining factor of the game. Another is whether or not you hold Fan to provide a swing turn. So, having preparation with Fan is just as important as just having Fan itself, because then you get to develop behind it, and then if you have like 1 or 2 minions plus your dagger, you're almost guaranteed to clear up whatever they play the following turn, and then they'll never have a good fungal mantle, they'll never have a good level up, and then they're stuck with awkward cards.
I wonder if the fact that BunnyHoppor chose not to use his dagger is a little bit of a tell to Killinallday that he may have Fan of Knives.
Yeah, in bite bold letters.
Reporting for duty.
Frode and jacket colored letters. It's a very loud telegraph. I have Fan of Knives, which is certainly something Killinallday is scared of. But at the same time, if BunnyHoppor fans now, it's not even like the end of the world for Killin, because Bunny's not developing anything behind it.
Right.
So if I'm BunnyHoppor, I'm actually maybe tempted to hold on to this Fan of Knives and just Shiv with the Flame Elemental. That seems a lot better alternative, and then I can perhaps have an opportunity to draw preparation, prep Fan with Valderai Strider.
All right, well, it's going for the Fan clear, and like you mentioned, though, this just answers Killin's board at the moment, and does not allow Bunny to get anything down himself.
Yep. The really good news for Bunny is that Killin doesn't have a very good turn 3 play. Zonal Defender on curve is not what you want to be doing. It's pretty weak, all things considered.
Speak your piece.
But, I think actually because he has backstab. Oh, wow. I mean, the thing is, because he because he had backstab, he can go with the idea that he has Valderai Strider backstab, and he still can prep the Shiv.
Right. In this situation for Bunny, do you just Valderai backstab, prep Shiv, and clear this board off? You end up with a 4/4 against nothing.
Yeah, I prep Shiv first, perhaps, to see if I draw Van Cleef.
Yeah.
And then you have like this ultimate bomb, because then you backstab Dagger, Flame Elemental, Van Cleef.
Because
after
as you said, this is usually a very tough matchup for the Miracle Rogue, but in this position, getting a 4/4 into play against absolutely nothing would be devastating for BunnyHoppor.
That might just win the game for BunnyHoppor.
Well, actually, there is the I think he's going to go prep Chip because he wants to potentially get a spider.
Okay, all right. That's also decent odds.
There's 3 spiders versus like a Van Cleef, which is the only other thing that you might play.
I mean, Van Cleef is a 1-of, and spiders are a 3-of. So I
attacked a 2-power guy and backstabbed.
Oh, was that a small little
yeah.
That's not what you want to be seeing if you're BunnyHoppor. But in the end, still, no harm, no foul if he doesn't shoot the game.
Sunkeeper Terum is one of the absolute strongest cards that Odd Paladin can get access to through Stonehill. It's a little slow here, of course, but
it's actually not going to be that impactful, I think, because BunnyHoppor is going to most likely set up this Flame Elemental next turn with Elemental Days ahead on board. I really like this Blessing of Kings because of that.
Yeah, this forces BunnyHoppor to deal with this or just loses 4/4. And obviously there are opportunities BunnyHoppor could have, like a sap to send this back to the hand, so there is no trade. Possible, but
I also don't know if I actually don't mind a Leroy here either. I know this sounds really dumb, but I think your priority isn't really winning the game with Leroy. It's controlling the board and never making sure that they get board advantage. And I don't know if I want to give up my 4/4 just to develop slightly weaker minions. But the nice thing is you have 2 threats on board as opposed to 1. So if you use Leroy, you do have only 1 minion on board versus Elven, Minstrel, Flame Elementals 2, and you can address your opponent's next hero power.
Yeah, I think that oftentimes you want to get multiple bodies on the board here, simply because it gives you the ability to address the hero power between your minions and your
Gadgets and Auctioneer, not
Auctioneer's
exactly.
Auctioneer's fantastic, but not here.
Yeah.
And Killin drawing all of his buffs. The Sunkeeper Terum obviously super powerful, but not unless you actually are able to establish a board. So far, Killen has not been able to, thanks to the strong start from BunnyHoppor. Same thing with Fungal Mancers. These Fungal Mancers, they threaten to be super strong, but you need to actually be able to keep those minions in play for them to get there.
The Fungal Mancers look like they're in a good position after the Vine Cleaver.
Right. Well, Vine Cleaver is going to be huge.
Yeah.
You know, Killen has had this in his hand since turn 1, and that is really going to be the crux of what he's leaning on this game to actually get value out of the rest of his hand.
Yeah. Killen picks the best statted minion for the mana cost and the Witchwood, assuming that BunnyHoppor ends up dumping a lot of his hand. At the same time, if you acknowledge that this game's going to go long because you have Vine Cleaver, you can justify taking Rotten Apple Bomb because you're going to be swinging with your life total a lot and taking damage.
Right, I was going to say, I think that Apple Bomb is very justifiable given the way that Miracle Rogue needs to beat you, which is going to be establishing a board and kind of chunking down your life total. And if you need to use your Vine Cleaver to defend yourself in that point, the extra life gain does potentially add up.
That being said, BunnyHoppor has a really good opportunity with this questing adventure and Hench Clan Thug. It sets up multiple threats that Killinallday needs to address both of them because they're growing snowball cards that will win the game if Killen keeps letting them grow bigger and bigger. And this was largely a product of BunnyHoppor, again, prioritizing having as many threats on the board to remove these small tokens, because 2 of those tokens surviving means Sunkeeper Terram closes.
Oh, God, Killen with all of the heavy cards in the deck. Double Vine Cleaver, double Fungal Mancer, all these extremely strong buff cards, but has not been able to get a foothold since BunnyHoppor's opening.
Yeah. And Sunkeeper Terram buffs the board. You actually help your opponent stabilize.
Well, it does allow you to address the questing adventure. Yeah,
I mean, I think Fungal Mancer might be a little bit better to just not buff my opponent's board, but that does bring up the question, you know, what the Sunkeeper Terram also locks in the attack to the next couple of minions. Oh, it's just so bad either way.
It is so awkward here. I mean, there's Leroy available for BunnyHoppor. He can Leroy this down, dagger down Van Cleef, kill the 1/1s, and get in 4 with the Hench Clan Thug.
I'm liking this Leroy too. Although, I'm not hating a Sap as well.
This is a scary card to put back in your opponent's hand if he does, get generation of minions.
True.
I think Righteous Protector alongside this next turn would be a nightmare.
Yeah, but you do get to push a lot of damage as well. Killen is going to be really far behind, but the nice thing is the Hench Clan Thug goes to a 4/4.
Well, Vine Cleaver takes care of it 4.
And Bunny pushes 1 less damage to hedge against that, just in case.
I'm actually curious what the motivation is there. The having damage on the 4 power guy with the 3/3. I guess if you do 1 less damage, but if you think that's going to die to a Vine Cleaver anyway, you'd rather have 1 more health in the minion that survives. That does make some sense.
That is kind of exactly what BunnyHoppor was looking for outside of Backstab, because now Gadsden Auctioneer is kind of a live draw. And you have 2 of them, so you get to dig a little bit deeper into your deck. The Van Cleef has been sitting for a while, and it looks like it's going to have to continue sitting because it doesn't have a really good opportunity. Oh, Backstab!
Ooh.
And BunnyHoppor also has those 3 spiders, and he's getting closer, increasing his odds with each draw.
And not a spider yet.
Oh, it's a spider. It is.
It's an arachnid.
But the thing is, BunnyHoppor already used Leroy, so Killen may feel a lot more comfortable with the taunt, except BunnyHoppor has the Sap.
Well, he's definitely got to kill that Auctioneer, and that leaves 7 up after killing that, so he could theoretically still get exploded, because there is quite a bit of burst damage remaining in BunnyHoppor's deck between Cold Blood and Eviscerate.
Yeah, it's going to come down to a life total issue.
Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty.
BunnyHoppor is a little bit off of lethal right here to end the game. Just needs some form of damage.
It's not it. He needs to hold on to this sap in order to ensure that he has a way to get through a taunt. But as you mentioned, without the Leroy left, without a way to punch through on this board, he kind of needs to play cleanup. He needs to retain board dominance.
Well, he has a way to go for it with the Auctioneer. I'm not sure if that's advisable because... Oh, actually, if he does go with
Cold
Auctioneer...
Blood, yeah, Auctioneer plus Cold Blood here
Anywhere.
gives him the out of... Ooh, Auctioneer sap. Interesting. You start with Cold Blood, drawing Eviscerate's lethal, right?
Right. No, yeah, he drew Eviscerate.
That
so
would have been
an
lethal.
effective missed lethal. And I think Cold Blood does just generally seem better because you're going to do it most
Did you just draw
likely.
Preparation?
Did you draw Prep?
Oh, okay.
all right. No harm, no foul, right? Extended BM.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a lot of these small, narrow edges. Miracle Rogue, part of the reason why so many Rogue players, specials love it, is because they search for those outs and probabilities on the draw a lot of times. So, you know, you have to be very careful and meticulous with what you're cycling for. And I actually like a lot of where BunnyHoppor's logic is. Like, for example, we saw that Shiv into the Vapor to get his first win. That's kind of what he was talking to us about. But definitely would love that top 8 first seed so you don't have to play tomorrow and save your strength, save your mental energy for Sunday.
Yeah, and not only that, but it gives you a chance to prepare
against the Shadowwalk Shaman. We've seen this a couple times, and we've seen it go even Warlock's way despite being favored, but I always feel like the Shadowwalk Shaman has still a lot of chance in this, even though sometimes we see the Mountain Giant or the Twilight Drake goes unanswered and bowl over the Shaman players. I still like Shadowwalk's odds compared to some other mid-range decks that Shadowwalk can struggle
Well, one of the key cards is actually just in BunnyHoppor's hand there. The Earth Shock is an answer to Twilight Drake. I've said it several times over the course of this weekend so far. That is a pretty important inclusion against one of the key early game threats that the even Warlock deck is able to muster.
Right. At the same time, though, that's a reactive card that BunnyHoppor is holding, and it's not universal. Like, if Mountain Giant gets played, that Earth Shock's not going to do anything.
I think that you certainly mulligan that card,
right.
But I'm saying that the inclusion of that in your deck over, say, Lightning Bolt, which is one of the stock cards you might include in Shadowwalk Shaman, is something that gives you a little bit more edge in this particular matchup.
Oh, yes. And he also picked up another important card with the Mantide Totem.
Yes.
I think those card draw sources are a lot more valuable to the Shadowwalk as opposed to the threat removal, because they're just going to play another threat.
The single best card you can have in your opening hand in this deck is Manatide Totem against even Warlock, because you need to generate your resources. You need to get to the stage of the game where you assemble your combo, and it's a very specific combo. You need exact copies of a bunch of different cards, so the more cards you draw, the better it is, and you also force your opponent to react to it early on. There's no way that the Warlock player can kill your Manatide and develop threats in the early game, and that's a huge need. Though that is kind of a way they can do it. With Doomsayer, if you want to deny the Manatide.
Yeah, the only thing is that it's very hard not to try and get the threat on turn 3 with Mountain Giant. And you can always just coin out the Twilight Drake anyways to check it, but it's exactly what you said. If your opponent has that Manatide, he's going to be drawing a few cards from it, and you're going to be pretty upset.
Yeah, there's Manatide coming down from BunnyHoppor, picking up one card.
Yeah, and in a weird way, too, BunnyHoppor actually was pretty unhappy with the Steering Totem because, as we see, he doesn't want to lower the attack.
The Giant. Killinallday finds the Mountain Giant. Yeah, thanks to that life tab last turn.
Exactly.
Of course.
That's kind of what he was going for. And now it forces BunnyHoppor into his position. He has to provide the Hex or freeze. Fortunately for BunnyHoppor, he does have the freeze, but he still needs another answer.
He also does have Chain Gang, which is something that can get in the way of this. Obviously, that is vulnerable to a Hellfire clearing off your entire board and pushing damage to the face. But the Farsight plus Glacial Shard guarantees there's no damage from the Giant.
Yeah.
What to do?
Farsight also gives you a chance of getting Hex because it would be playable exactly on this turn for 1 mana.
And again, what this deck wants to do is, and he finds it. Wow. That is pretty huge for BunnyHoppor here, able to immediately answer the Mountain Giant from Killinallday, stifling his offense, and keep drawing cards from that mana side.
In the words of our good friend, Big Batty Addy Admirable, we have one good draw deserves another. And I think, like, as much as BunnyHoppor was very fortunate to draw the Hex, Killinallday also, you know, drew that Mountain Giant exactly off the top. And now we're going to go to another threat check, which is this Twilight Drake from Killinallday. Or does he want to answer the mana side totem? I mean, we've seen some unchecked card draw sources end up wreaking havoc. Because if BunnyHoppor didn't have the mana side totem, would he have drawn that Hex?
Well, no.
No.
The next card.
It was a rhetorical question.
but he could have played a Farsight, and then he would have still.
You're right. It was destined to happen. It was a heart of the cards.
No matter how he spent his mana on card draw, it was there.
Yeah.
But maybe if it wasn't mana time, it would have been a different place in his deck.
Yeah. It was Blizzard personally monitoring the situation to ensure that Farsight drew the Hex. Oh, this is an interesting divergence from what we're kind of talking about here.
So this does ensure that BunnyHoppor gets one more card from his mana type, but it also ensures that he has no board development into the turn that Killinallday can play his threats. And Killinallday could coin out the Skulkengeist, which clears the way of any potential Earth Shocks for that Twilight Drake. He knows there's 2 copies of Earth Shock in BunnyHoppor's deck, and also a copy of Ancestral Healing.
Well, it's just funny that the Farsight reduces it to -3. So if a Nerubian Unraveler comes out, you can still play it for 0. But yeah, that's about it. Oh.
Ooh, BunnyHoppor's got the tools. He does not yet have a Life Drinker.
Yeah.
But other than that, Grumble plus Serenite plus Shudderwalk is the major key combo pieces of the Shudderwalk deck. And yeah, Killinallday was setting this up. He was trying to ensure, okay, the coast is clear. There's no way that you just get to Earth Shock my Twilight Drake for free.
Yeah, for free, but in a weird way, it sometimes helps BunnyHoppor as well. Not that it's obviously something that BunnyHoppor wants to see. He actually preferred Killinallday to develop something really bad. But it helps him get closer to his combo pieces, honestly. And as long as he's freezing the board, clearing it, making sure he's not taking enough damage, he'll be sitting in a pretty good spot. But for now, we've seen a lot of Shamans run into hand space issues. And once again, BunnyHoppor with a full hand needs to kind of do something here. And I mean, Serenite Chain Gang is something that you immediately think about. Gluttonous Ooze is not exactly great, so you can always just plop it down. But the thing is, you're floating a couple mana no matter what you're doing here, unless you play Grumble.
One of the interesting things about this deck is sometimes you just want to play your Grumble just out there, even without any kind of value, because, well, you need to spend that mana at some point. That said, this game's been progressing pretty slowly, so there's the possibility that BunnyHoppor, decides that he wants to try and just get value from it. And all right, yeah, he's actually just gonna clear out his hand a little bit. Yeah, play a Ancestral Healing on his Gluttonous Ooze, as well as an Acolyte wants to dig.
Yeah, and it makes sense too. Grumble does actually scale pretty well into the late stage of the game, especially with cards like Glacial Shard. You might not think Glacial Shard is really important in the early game, but it's actually one of the most valuable cards against Warlock in particular because of the threat of Giants.
None.
Boom, set it up.
Yeah, BunnyHoppor was, of course, just hedging in case his opponent had some way to multiple course draw and just want to burn as many cards as possible. Ooh, picks up Murmuring Elemental. So BunnyHoppor is really close to finding all pieces of the combination. Just kind of needs Life Drinker, I think, and that would be it for at least the game-ending combo. But he still would have to survive the onslaught if Killinallday places, multiple threats here. And one thing that's kind of been a problem with Killen is he has double Hooked Reaver with 24 health. So he's still pretty far from generating significant threats with those cards.
Yeah, and there's been a couple turns where he was not able to life tap based on the way he spent his mana. So he's hasn't really set himself up necessarily in this game to use those as effectively as possible. Hasn't found a Hellfire either, way to potentially clear off some of BunnyHoppor's minions, as well as get his life total down to enable those hooked reavers.
Little time.
It's a tough proposition because BunnyHoppor wants to clear this, but at the same time, it strong arms the rest of his mana on turn 8, and then he has 6 mana on the bottom turn for Volcano, so he'd rather soften up the board. Ooh, tossing Glacial Shard into the mix.
This does mean that Defile is online to clear out the board.
I think the logic behind this is even if my opponent defiles, he's weakening his own board significantly as well, so that I could either storm or clear off whatever threat he develops. Because if Killinallday is playing Defile, he's only playing a 4-mana minion, and then most likely he can get cleared off by, say, Volcano.
Bubblies and yummies.
Generally, the longer you can hold off on Volcano, the better your turns get, because you're not just stuck with Volcano do nothing. In this case, because BunnyHoppor's been patient, now I can play Mana Tide with that Volcano.
Yeah, he can Volcano into the Mana Tide here to clear off and get digging a little bit more. Only 11 cards left in his deck. Does need to find a Life Drinker. The fact that he has Murmuring Grumble does mean that he has the 100% combo too. So once he actually assembles everything, there's no way that he misses on his Grumble removal.
Yeah. Murmuring Elemental is replacing that Zol the Gorgon as a way to significantly increase your chances of getting that optimal Shutterwalk turn. Bogshaper, of course, not nearly as impactful. 2 Earthshocks have been burned by a Skulkengeist, and Ancestral Healing is gone with the Farsights. So, Bogshaper is most likely going to be drawing 1 card at best unless you have a Hagatha. And it's unfortunate because that is often, one of those cards that you are relying upon late game as a 7-mana auctioneer.
Possibilities.
The new Bogchamp.
The new Bogchamp, but not as Bogchamp. Not anywhere close.
I know you're a little bit biased.
I'm very biased towards fat taunts that cost 7 or more mana. So Furious Setting definitely rubs me in all the right places.
Not safe for broadcasting.
Possibilities.
Killinallday, though, has a pretty awkward turn here because he has Twilight Drake, he has those Hooked Reavers, but nothing really adds up. Just gonna go ahead and Doomsayer again. And whenever you Doomsayer the Mana Tide, it feels a little bit bad because, yes, you're clearing it off, but they get yet another card.
So this... hold on 1 sec.
Holding.
So I'm thinking about what his board state would look like if he, if this board cleared, then he tapped and played double Twilight Drake, and I believe it would be a 4-8 and a 4-7. Is that correct? Because after he life taps, he'll be holding 9 cards. Oh, so it'd be a 4-9, 4-8.
Yeah.
Okay. So it ends up being okay. Okay, good. That's all you want to really make sure. If you're gonna play multiple threats, like 2 threats in the late stages of the game, you just want to play around the Volcano.
Right. Now, BunnyHoppor here, wow, just says go, understandably, considering the Doomsayer going off. It is a little unfortunate that that was also just an overload turn for Killinallday. He would much rather have denied the play from BunnyHoppor, potentially had more access to mana. The guy, as you mentioned, comes down as a 4-9, 4-8, can be removed by a Volcano plus Lightning Storm here. Guaranteed.
So if Life Drinker is the 30th card here for BunnyHoppor, because I believe he plays only one of. That's correct.
Yeah.
He is going to be in limbo for a while. This Grumble is just to ensure that he has Shutterwalk. But now he's kind of at the mercy of what Killinallday develops, and this is the window of opportunity that Killin's been waiting for. And Killin is 1 life off from what he wants to do, because he could Vulgar Homunculus double hook.
Yeah, he can tap Homunculus Reaver, which is still pretty strong.
Still pretty strong. And I guess, I mean, is a Spellstone fully upgraded at that point? I think
yes,
so.
Would be upgraded at that
But
point.
then you lose the second
your second Reaver is off.
You fight like a dragon.
That's such an annoying thing to deal with. But
This does end up leaving Killinallday with still a board that's protected from at least the 7/7 body. He has
but
25 health in the board. Lightning Storm Volcano still, it's not guaranteed to be a clear.
Right. It could clear.
What to do?
But it's not guaranteed. Is it?
No, because there's 25. You get -8 guaranteed.
Then you'd be at 17.
Right. You were statistically, I think, 50% chance that you clear. Because you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well played.
Little throwback.
Yeah.
There's little time. None.
Only 2018 kids will get it. Well, BunnyHoppor just going to try to heal up and stall for another turn. Still no life drinker. Mountain Giant. Oh, man. Talk about the story of just, like, being a little bit off of everything he wants optimal. This thing should be a 7/7 on the board. This Mountain Giant could be, 6 mana to play another big threat with it. At the same time, we've seen Shutterwalks not have to be reliant on that Life Drinker either. Right? They can just play board stall until they get Life Drinker because they have the Shutterwalk combo. So they play Murmuring Elemental, Hagatha with board clears, and then just keep stalling until, well, Killen can't actually kill him at that point. Until BunnyHoppor gets the electric.
Possibilities.
Yeah, definitely a tough spot for Killen. He's got to keep the pressure on.
Only a fool rejects the Lich King. Shields up.
Play everything out.
I like this taunt on just Tainted Zealot. Reduces the least amount of, it prevents the reduction of life on board for Volcano.
Yeah, it does a couple of things. It makes the Volcano worse with the attack from the Black Knight. It also means that a Shutterwalk with the Black Knight trigger only kills a 1/1.
Yeah, that's true. So there's 2, 5, plus 17, so 22, plus 8. So 30 life on the board on Killen's side, plus 5, so 35. I was looking at Pyromancer, Lightning Storm, and Volcano. Does that clear everything?
Well, Pyromancer Lightning Storm lets you attack the Black Knight into something. So
Oh, you're right.
it definitely does.
So it should most likely clear.
The Lightning Storm plus Pyro trigger kills the taunt.
Yeah.
You attack the Black Knight into one of the high health minions, then Volcano will, I believe, definitely clear.
Yes, it should almost definitely clear because it deals minimum 3 to everything.
Right.
And then Black Knight
This,
guaranteed trade.
this would definitely clear. Oh,
Okay.
okay. A
So
little bit differently, though.
Hex keeps his mana a little bit more flexible.
Sure.
A 3 or a 3 on this Twilight? Oh, this
Actually, I think, yeah, this is actually going to guarantee clear as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. Really good spot by Bunny.
Yeah, for sure.
So he saves Volcano instead for a singular threat and uses Lightning Storm, which is a little bit more awkward. And Killen, of course, was developing hands. Then he got Blood River Gul'dan. And he didn't draw it. So now Killen's at the mercy of another removal piece. And another freeze effect.
There is still no life trigger for BunnyHoppor, so he does not have his full combo here. He could just play Bog Shaper into Healing Rain,
Yeah.
which would put him to 30 with the Bog Shaper in play, drawing a minion from his deck. I'm not sure what minions he has left.
I think he's overloaded, so he can't.
Oh, right, he is
use the Bog
overloaded
Shaper.
this turn. Never mind.
But there's also merit to even just like playing Hagatha. If he doesn't draw life trigger next turn, he can just play Hagatha and then play the Shutterwalk combo and keep board clearing. Oh, interesting thought. If the Lich King somehow steals the Life Drinker through Death Grip, I mean, BunnyHoppor would
It is a
just
possibility.
he would just loop his Shutterwalk until he gets like a full board of 6 threes, right?
Well, he hasn't played Haggard.
Oh, you're right. He hasn't played Haggard.
So if he just gets 6 6s,
That might be what Killinallday has to do. Looks like he's just gonna pressure with the silence, and he is out of range of the volcano. And this also is a really fearsome board to deal with.
oh, Life Drinker, yeah, murmuring Shutterwalk right now.
Yeah,
Nope.
and he wants to stop the damage from coming in right now. Damage from coming in.
Got enough to close things out.
Yeah, and I don't know what Killing can do. His Death Knight is in the bottom 4 cards of his deck. But even without it, he just didn't have enough pressure because of all the stall that the Shutterwalk Shaman had. These are back-to-back matchups that Killen was favored in. But BunnyHoppor should be able to close it out with this. 3-1.